Hey there everyone, Luke here, and yeah, I don't want to be around the bush here, I just want to dive right into the chapter, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, so this will be chapter 230, titled Prophecy. Now, like I said in the last review, this is what I expected pretty much the whole chapter to be like, nothing but this conversation between Asa and Tao, and it's nice that we got that. It's nice that we just got like, okay, this is like the literal calm before the storm here, where Asa explains like potentially what he's doing, like what his plan is, and Tao's response to it. So yeah, anyway, the chapter starts off with a pretty nice colour page of Hiyofumi and Alpha just hanging out with each other, and Alpha's got like an ice cream cone which is with green and blue. So I guess he likes bubblegum and mint chocolate chip ice cream. I'm not a fan of mint chocolate chip ice cream, and of course we have Hiyofumi locking arms with him because she's like, he's my brother, and I love him to bits. But the one thing that strikes me about is that Hiyofumi has a Goliath t-shirt and Alpha has a Goliath tie. So yeah, I guess hey, the anime's out and the anime's doing great, which, by the way, speaking of which, English dub, the guy playing Kiricho absolutely nails it. Like, you can tell that he might actually be a fan of the series because he plays Kiricho just amazingly well in that series. I mean, they all do, but he's the best out of all of them, in my personal opinion. Even though I like that Shinsu's voice, because the guy playing him, who's the same guy who does the English voice for Bakugo in My Hero and Ryusui in Dr. Stone, it's nice that he gets like a different role for himself, like the kind of timid role, as opposed to like the I'm boisterous out there role. So it's nice that he gets to do that range, which every so often. But yeah, anyway, that's my thoughts on the English dub for Yozakura. They're all doing a great job, but Creatures is the best. So anyway, getting into the chapter properly, we start off with basically from the end of the last chapter, where Asa's like, oh, before we harm each other, give me a moment of your time, or about like, let's say 20 pages of your time before we start going at each other, start beating the shit out of each other. For one who wishes the best of the Yozakura family to another, because you know, we both have the same agenda here, Tao. We both want to protect the Yozakuras, but Tao is probably thinking like, yeah, you want to protect them for something other than I want to protect them, Asa. And says, allow me one first and final attempt at discussion. So yeah, again, like I said, nice that we're actually getting this sit down and the calm before the storm, because yeah, I miss the days where we get those old-fashioned standoffs between the main hero and the main villain. So it's nice that we're getting this here. As we have Tao going, yeah, what in the world should we talk about here? And Asa continues on by saying, my apologies, I knew once you were a bashful person. That said, my opponent attempted to take your dignity from you. Surely you have something you wish to say to me, so I'm laying out all on the cards for you, Tao. And this pretty much reminds me of the conversation that Sahir and Korra had in season 3 of The Legend of Korra, where they were just like, you know what? We'll sit down, we'll have this discussion, you can ask me whatever you want, and Asa's doing the same thing here, like, let's sit down, let's just discuss things here before we start going at each other's throats. So, what do you wish to say to me? Because you obviously have something you want to say to me, and Tao says, like, yeah, it's right, I fought a lot of people, and we never really understood one another, but I got a hand on their beliefs and what they were actually, and why they actually were doing what they were doing. In the case of, like, with Kawashita, Momo, the snake lady on the train. But with Asa, never really got an idea of him, like, because Asa has just been like this blank slate, stone cold, like stoic character, and even though he's got like a kind of idea of what Asa wants, he's never really got a clear-cut answer on it. He doesn't know what he ultimately wants, and he doesn't know how he feels, and like what drives him. And Asa just gives off the really blank stare here, which is enough to make you piss your pants with fear. And Tao says, look, we can basically talk however we want, but I doubt it's going to stop us from fighting, because inevitably you're the bad guy for us. You're coming after my family. You want to take my kids away from me. So naturally, I can only talk so much before we start going at each other. But there is one thing that you basically have not said to us exactly why are you after the twins, and what do you mean by how they are how are they dangerous to the Yozakura family? But Asu's just like, really? That's the thing you want to ask me? I mean, you should really know the answer by now. I mean, you saw the prophecy too, which, okay, okay, okay. I'm not a fan of prophecies. Like, I seriously don't. I know that, like, the age all like, oh, this is the child of prophecy, the child of destiny, and everything has to revolve around them to get them to this specific point. I hate that. I hate that cliche because it basically means like the characters basically have no free will at that point, and it's like you want your characters to have free will to make their own choice, to make their own choices. If you're giving them a prophecy, it's kind of being like. It's kind of like the author inserting themselves into the story and being like, no, 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 you're not going there, you're going here, and nothing's going to change that. Even though characters should have the idea to like, no, we can change where we're actually going. I know it's kind of like even though they do have a. Just go with that. It was a bunch of bags falling over, and I'm on a roll here, so ignore that. So yeah. Anyway, I hate prophecies for the most part. I mean, some can be done really well if they're not overly used, but kind of hard to explain my point. Like my point is that I hate it when it's like, oh, there's a prophecy here and it's gonna come true 100% and nothing can change. That's basically my stance on it, and it's kind of civic here. Like I don't really vibe with this of the fact that this prophecy that's going to come up 100% accurate. No, nothing's changed. That basically, like I said, it basically means the characters don't have any free will for themselves to do what they want to do, and we know that there's going to be a set path, and very much not going to be changed from that path unless something is pulled, unless the author does a complete 180 and be like, oh, you thought this was going to be no, it's going to be this here. Like if they do something like that when they flip it on its head and be like, oh, you think we're going to go in one direction, no, we're going to go in the other, then at least then I'm okay with it. Now, even though I'm not a fan of the prophecy trope, one thing that I do like is what's coming up here, because it balances out in my opinion, in terms of like my disdain for like the prophecy, like the child of prophecy trope. It's balancing out because there's something that's coming up which I've wanted to explain, or I've wanted to confirm since the series began. So anyway, we'll get into it. So the prophecy itself is twin buds of the 11th spring, their blossom bolts out the morning, bringing cherry blossoms into bloom. And these words were spoken by Cosmos Akisakawa, which this was the character that I was referring to in the last review, like the one that I had forgotten the name of, and the one that Pie Jams, when I read his comment, didn't know what I was talking about. So it's this character that I was talking about, Pie Jams. So anyway, they're a unique individual, and it's been a while since we've actually really seen them in the story. Like, I think. It has been a while, so that's kind of like why I kind of put them on the back burner, and it's like, oh yeah, I remember this character now. But yeah, they're a unique individual because not only are they on the surface a gold-rank spy and part of the Underworld's fortune-telling family, but their family, the Sakura family, is an offshoot of the Yozakura family from the third generation. So finally, we're getting branch family members into the story here, which is something I have wanted since the series began, because this was something that was obviously boggling me. Like, did like any of the Yozakuras before Mutsume have any siblings, or was she the only one? But no, this actually pretty much confirms that no, there were other Yozakuras well, technically, Yozakura that branched off and became their own family. So maybe it was like from the third head's generation. So maybe it was like one of the third head's sisters that married someone with the Akisawa name and took that, and basically, and it seems like they actually distanced themselves from the Yozakuras, probably because they found out about Asa and found out what he was doing. It's like, I don't want to be involved with that, so I'm gonna find my own family away from the Yozakuras because I don't want to be involved with that. That's more than likely what happened. I do complain that, like, with Asa doing what he was doing, it's like, yeah, I'd be out of there in an instant. But no, thankfully we finally got that confirmation, and her power, like what she has here, it is kind of an offshoot of the blooming. So whether or not they did something similar to Tampopo, that's not confirmed here, but sort of implied that no, the offshoot of the this offshoot family of the Yozakuras, this branch family, has done like some experiments and gotten some form of blooming. Because we see like that Cosmos's eyes are similar to the Yozakuras, but different in a way. So anyway, they've been sleeping the whole time, and they're always sleeping. She spends much of her time sleeping, particularly around others. The case of that is the crystallized Simone. So yeah, the Simone is crystallized. So I guess they were kind of experimenting with that. This family, this Akisawa family was experimenting with this, and obviously crystallized the Simone in her performative cortex. And this places a strain on her body, and to bear it, she keeps her physical exertions to a bare minimum. So basically, this whole crystallization of the Simone puts a strain on her body. So in order to preserve it, like, she is like, okay, I'm gonna make sure that most of my physicality with my body is kept to an absolute bare minimum, only doing it when it's absolutely necessary. And those few times when she wakes in another's presence, she'll look at the individual before them and grant them a prophecy. So I guess it's kind of like I said, it's kind of like a power that's the offshoot of blooming. So it's not really a superpower, but it's still kind of out of the norm power here. And apparently her prophecies are 100% accurate. And again, I don't really like this is why I don't really like that, because again, it seems like none of the characters have any free will when it's like they come and see this character. It's like, oh, you've got a prophecy here. Oh, you're destined to die. Yeah, you're destined to die in this particular way at this specific moment at this specific hour. That would be something that, if something like that happened to me, I would be like, no, I'm gonna prevent that as much as possible, even though they're saying it's like 100% accurate. Like, if I knew like the day, the time, and the hour that I was prophesied to die, I'd be like, I'm not moving from anywhere. I'm getting in a box and not moving from anywhere. And again, this is, like I said, it takes away the free will of the characters, and you want your characters to have free will to be able to do whatever they want. Even though, as an author myself, I'm kind of like directing where the characters go. But at the same time, if I feel like I feel like this character will go in this direction as opposed to this direction, I'll change it. I'll let them have as much, which I guess that makes me a hypocrite there. I'm saying, like, I don't like the characters to have no free will, but then I'm dictating when the characters go in my stories. It's a complicated thing. It's a complicated thing to have, but I hope people can understand where I'm coming from here, and that's and I'll get off this whole like ranting about, well, not really ranting, just giving my critiques about 100% prophecies. Now, oh my god, yeah. Okay. One last thing. I promise this will be my last thing. Retro Wolf, Series A, Episode 4, Cassandra, where she had the ability to predict the future with 100% accuracy. That's kind of like my okayness with prophecies, because they kind of poke fun at the fact that, yeah, we don't have any free will if we're gonna all be able to know what's gonna happen when it's gonna happen. So I like that it was kind of switched on its head there. Okay, moving on with the chapter. Enough rambling. So one individual life equals one prophecy, and once not long ago, Asa received a prophecy from her, and it was a mere decade prior, when she was still young, and it was come the 10th summer blooming cherry blossoms will flutter in this order. So we'll get to know what that actually means in a minute. But yeah, like I said, her eyes make like a sort of like a sort of like cherry blossom, a sort of like flower, because it's like has a 5-pointed star. So it's kind of like the blooming guys, but at the same time not exactly the blooming guys. So Asa goes on to explain that not much later that prophecy came true, which is basically referred to the current generation of Yozakuras that we're in now. The Yozakura family that I am being so painstakingly looking after through the shadows, it's fallen into this order thanks to the meddling of the ninth element, and now the 10th generation seeks to leave me entirely. So that was what Asa interpreted the prophecy of, just being like, okay, the 10th generation is gonna leave. It's gonna basically try to leave you and prevent you from exercising further plans, and realizing the risk of it, he once again visited her in order to take her into protective custody. But at that point, she was living with an ever-flowing river of precognition, and if she was perceived a threat, she can assure that she will never encounter it. So Asa had yet to come across her again, and as he expected, her prophecies quickly presented a new threat, which was Momo Yozakura, that received the prophecy, which was about the twin blooms, referring to Alpha and Hifumi, and how the two flowers born into the 11th generation would bring about basically the foretold prophecy of taking down Asa and taking down his plans. So Asa continues to explain that at first he thought that, okay, it's just simply destroying me, but no. It's not just destroying me; it's getting in the way of my plans, because as we're all aware, the head of the Yozakura family is made of Simone, but that total number of Simone has declined with each generation, which I do like. This is something that I do like as well, because the more generations you go down, the more something is going to be diluted until it's basically non-existent from where it previously was. I'm surprised that not a lot of powers in My Hero Academia got diluted. So you could have had someone with super strength, but as it went down as it was passed down through generation upon generation, it got really diluted. I'm surprised there was not a lot more touched on that with My Hero Academia, but I do like this, like the power, like if you keep adding in more normal humans into the family, eventually it's gonna be diluted. And I do believe in I've not watched Dragon Ball yet, but I do believe Akira Toriyama said at one point that the power of Super Saiyan would eventually get diluted to the point that eventually generations of Goku's family wouldn't be able to access it. Now, I'm only paraphrasing Kyo of what I heard in the grapevine. I don't know if that's actually true, if that was actually something that was stated, but it's kind of the same thing here, that eventually it's just going to decline with each generation, like the Simone that Asa has painstakingly tried to keep as pure as possible, is going to eventually be diluted so much that at this point, the total volume remaining fell short of what's required for the heart of the Yozakura family head, and that's why it split off into reducing itself by half. So again, I do like this. Like, this is why the twins were born. Like, there was just not enough Simone for the Yozakura family head, so it just split off between them. Now they can still activate a blooming, but I feel like based on what's going on here, this is going to be like Alpha and Hifumi's generation are going to be the last that actually have the blooming. But I can understand now why Asa wants them destroyed, so that he can take all the Simone out of them, get it back into him, and basically go at Tsubumi again, and just be like, okay, we've got to get more Simone out of you, and we've got to make a new generation, like a totally fresh batch of generation, starting from generation 1 and working our way from there. And yeah, no wonder that Sabumi wants to die at this point. If that's what Asa wants, like destroying the twins, getting back all the Simone from them, and just creating more and more Simone through not only Sabumi herself, but eventually artificial means itself. So, and this obviously explains where Asa's children come from, like artificially created children made from Simone, but still have the capability of having proper, fully functioning, powerful bloomings. And yeah, Asa confirms here that while the twins do have the capabilities of a Yozakura, of a typical Yozakura, they don't have what it takes to be the heads. Although this raises a question of like, I mean, I know Party Jams explain it to me, like, but at the same time, how do they dictate, okay, who's the head and who isn't the head? Like, was that ever explained? And if it was, I apologize. I'm sure Party Jams will bring it up again in the comments for this video. But yeah, basically, Alpha and Heel Fury will be able to pass down the powers to the next generation, and their children will be perfectly normal human beings, and this will spell the end of the Yozakura family's power, which again will be a blessing for the Yozakuras themselves, because everyone wants the blooming power, and the fact that their kids, when they're born, won't have the powers, that will just be like, oh my god, thankfully our family can just be normal spies at this point. As the prophecy says, cherry blossoms would bloom, not night blooming cherry blossoms. They'll be common cherry blossoms and not Yozakuras. A future where my eternal Yozakura family comes to an end. That was the prophecy Momo received, and with that in mind, and hoping to all of my plans, you collaborate with Momo, creating your own plan, a plan where you birth children to stop me. And this gets Tile pissed off, like, because he's thinking like, you're implying that the only reason why I had children was not because I love my wife, was not because I love my family, was not because I wanted to be a father, but it was because I wanted to stop you. This really gets him pissed off. Like, you see like the eye of just being like, how dare you say something like that? And he gives the biggest no ever. So it's just like, oh, a plan where you birth children to stop me? No! Like, just like that. Like, and I can't blame Tao. Like, if somebody said that, oh, you've only had children to stop me, you don't really love them, and you don't really, like, I'd be like, how fucking dare you? You really don't care about family. You just care about yourself. And to say that really gets to me. But Tao's just like, I didn't know about the prophecy not until after the twins were born. As we get a flashback to Tao going over what Momo said in his message, and where it was like, it won't be long until your 5 years of training are up. By then, this video will have automatically sent itself to you. This is my final message. If you have children, look through my coat in my room. If you don't have children yet, don't bother. So Momo was basically saying like, look, this message is my final message to you, because more than likely I'm going to be dead at this point. So if you have children, look in my pocket. If you don't have children, just wait, and then you should be able to look at my message here. As it says, I pray the words contained therein are some help to you. But Tao's just like, yeah, this was all a coincidence. The twins are the treasures of Mutsumi and me. We didn't have them as part of some grand plot. Like, good on you, Tao, for saying that. Basically giving you the middle finger to Asa in this situation. And Asa maybe sarcastically apologising here, but still apologising about it before Tao says, oh no, I'm glad you said what you actually did. If the prophecy and what you said are right, then those two will be free of the fate that binds the Yozakura family. Basically saying like, no, I'm glad you said this, because this basically means that even though these two will have superpowers, it doesn't mean that they're going to be restricted to being Yozakuras, and they're free to do whatever they want with their lives. So Mutsumi's parents' dreams was to save their children, but that was something they couldn't manage in their life. And now Mutsumi and I are the ones that can actually do that. So I couldn't be happier. And with that, I can fight you now without a single regret. And Asis is like, oh, you're awfully calm here, before he says, I've observed you for several years now. You've greatly matured since your time as a student. But Tao's just like, No, not really. I'm barely hanging on right now. I'm just a little better at keeping things from showing on my face. That's all. Inside, I'm still the same person as I always was. And it's true, like, Tile, throughout all of this, like, even though he's basically been said right to his face, like, your kids are part of the grand plot, he's just been like, and just given, like, the death glare of just being like, oh, you are going down at this point. So wrapping up the chapter, we have Tao saying, I can at least pretend to be a reasonable adult for a bit for the sake of my family. We have plans in place yet, but I doubt everything will work out the way that we want it to. So I'm prepared to take you down with me. And Asa's just like, okay then let me ask you one thing here. Naturally, I assume you went and saw Cosmos, and what prophecy did she grant you? And Tile is just like, before he says, no, she didn't grant me anything. Even if she had, that wouldn't mean anything. We aren't living for some predetermined future. We live for the future where we build with our own hands. And Asus is like, yeah, I agree with you on that one. So let us begin as we see him basically destroy everything around him, except I think he's like, yeah, no, he destroys everything around him except for where Tao is standing, and as they're just like, okay, let's get this battle on the way for the future of the Yozakuras. But it turns out that there was a prophecy for Tao from Cosmos, as she says, morning's glow starts to gleam. Two suns can't share dawn's glory. Whether one sets or they're both set, there can be only one sun, and that's where a chapter ends. So this like prophecy might actually be referring to either the twins, only one twin can survive while the other dies, or they both die together, or although I don't think that Shonen Jump will allow the author to go through with that, or it just basically means like because Asa and Tile want a new dawn for their families, like fighting for the future, fighting for a new rising of the sun for their families. So it might be a case of like referring to Tile and Asa, so like either Asa has to fall, Tile has to fall, or they both have to fall. But anyway, that's the end of the chapter. So pretty good standoff between Tile and Asa, even though I had a few nitpicks with them, but they're minor nitpicks. They're just things that I'm just generally fed up of just seeing all the time, like, oh, the prophecy cannot be altered on any way, even though if you know what the prophecy is, you could naturally change it, like that, like not really a prophecy that can 100% come true if you know what's going to happen and you're like, okay, do I have the free will to change this? I think I have the free will to change this. But anyway, so it seems like the next chapter we're going to start getting into the battle with Tile and Asa, and maybe part of the prophecy will come true that Tile will fall, but they might actually find a way to get him back up on his feet for round 2 with Asa. Because, like I said, I don't think this battle between Asa and Tile is gonna be resolved in just one fight. Like I said, Kiricho needs to be involved in this. Like, he was involved in the battle with Kawashita, involved in the battle with Moro. He has to be involved with the battle of Asa. Like, Tile and him versus Asa, that's guaranteed to happen. Like I've been saying, if it came down to any other way, even if it was just Tile versus Asa, I would be satisfied, but I feel like it would be like kind of weird that Kiricho was involved in Kawashita and Momo fights, but not with Asa. That would be kind of like weird on my part. But anyway, so now we've got the whole fight, we've got all the fights set up. So I guarantee that next chapter, we're starting to like really get into like, okay, the action is going to start. We've had the calm before the storm, now the storm is actually going to start happening. But anyway, guys, what did you think of this chapter? Let me know, like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And this will be Lasher Luke signing off. Later, guys.